When I was 10 years old, I learned how to make a coin disappear by accident. I wasn't looking for a book of magic tricks when I went to the library. I was looking for a book of spells. I had read Tolkien's trilogy, The Lord of the Rings, and 10 is this sort of curious age where you're old enough to read 1,300 pages of sort of obscure fantasy literature, and young enough to, at the end of that time, go to the library and expect to find a book of actual supernatural spells that you could perform on the playground and impress everybody. This is what I had in mind. So I didn't find a book of spells. I found a book of basic sleight of hand technique, and I learned my first truly great magic trick, and it's very simple. You put a coin in your hand, you close your hand, and when you open your hand, the coin's gone. Now, I don't know what it was about this idea of being able to do something that looked impossible, that so completely captured my imagination. But I became obsessed with this coin trick. I bet I put 400 hours into making this look perfect over the course of a few months. And for the first few thousand times, it was not amazing at all. One of the things that you learn very early on as a magician is that making even a simple magic trick look good takes some effort. And so the secret maneuver I had to learn, and I can tell you this because you'll forget it anyway. To make the coin disappear, I had to learn this secret set of maneuvers to bring the coin behind my hand in the action of opening it to make it look empty. So for the first few thousand times I did this, I'd drop the coin on the ground, or my fingers would look cramped and awkward, and it was not amazing at all. But then one day I tried it, and I opened my hand, and the coin was gone, and it didn't look like a magic trick. It looked like a miracle. So I decided I wanted to see what would happen if I performed this at school. And I have been trying ever since that day to figure out exactly what happened on the playground. Let me say this first. In the years since, I've been very lucky. I've been able to travel to countries all around the world to perform magic for people. And I've noticed something very strange about magic. When people see something that they perceive as a magic trick, their reaction will vary greatly depending on where they are in the world, because every culture has their own version of the magician, that sort of archetypal figure, and every people has their own set of cultural associations with that figure. And so, like in America, magic is very commonly associated with laser beams and smoke machines and tight leather pants, right? If you ask someone on the street to describe a magician for you, they will describe a figure that's somewhere between Job from Arrested Development and Elvis, right? That is magic in the average American's mind. I'm sure that perception is different here. I know it's different in India. I know it's different in China. It's different all over the world. So when people see something that they perceive as a magic trick, their reactions to that experience are guided as much by their cultural expectations and associations with magic as they are by the experience itself. But when people, and this is the strange part, when people see something that they perceive as a miracle, whenever a magic trick is so good that it transcends the genre, that people don't think they're watching a trick, they think they're watching an actual supernatural event, the response is exactly the same everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're a sheep herder in Tibet or a taxi driver in Texas. Everyone, you can be young, old, rich, poor, it doesn't matter. Everyone everywhere responds to the fracturing of the logical process, the rational process, in exactly the same way. Let me phrase it this way. When you're at a magic show, and you see something impossible happen, you have this tremendous barrier, sort of a safety barrier, because you know you're watching a magician, you know it's a trick, so the most incredible things could happen on stage, and it's sort of, you enjoy it because you know that it's okay. You're at a show, that's what you're expecting to see. But as soon as you take that context away, if as I'm talking to you right now, this isn't a magic show, we're just talking. If I was to just raise my hands and disappear, that would not entertain you at all, right? It would scare the crap out of you. The appropriate response to that would not be applause. It would be fear. You would run from here as fast as you could. And maybe on the way out, you would also be filled with some sort of secret joy that maybe the world was bigger than you thought. But the initial response would be very troubling. So, age 10, on the playground, they didn't know I was a magician. I wasn't a magician, I had just learned this trick, right? They didn't know they were watching a magic trick. They just saw something disappear, and they didn't clap, they were not entertained. They just started screaming. They just went crazy. They were jumping up and down and running around. You've seen this. You've seen street magic on TV when it catches people and they don't understand what they're seeing. Sometimes they just go crazy and they do the most outlandish things. So imagine, if you will, you are the teacher on duty at the playground, right? And you look across the field and you see this cluster of students, you don't know what they're doing, and then they all start screaming and running away, and I'm standing there in the middle. So this teacher comes over, and she was very strict. Do you use the phrase, can you say hard ass here? Is that, yeah. Very strict, very authoritarian, very intimidating presence on the playground. And she came over and demanded that I show her whatever I showed them. So I made the coin disappear for her. And I will remember the look of wonder on her face for the rest of my life. Now, that's a fine story. But the more I think about it, the stranger it gets, right? What was going on there? Because I was just a 10-year-old boy. It was just a coin trick, right? The response that came from that, and that has come from thousands of performances since then, has been to such a degree out of proportion to the thing that caused it that I didn't know how to explain it. It seems so baffling to me that something as simple as a coin trick could create this visceral, immediate, overpowering reaction in people. Let me say it like this. If as a 10-year-old I had put 400 hours of work into learning to play the cello, at the end of that time, I could probably play something with some degree of competency. I guess I don't know how far 400 hours gets you on the cello, but had I dragged my cello out onto the playground and played something for them, they might have liked it. It might have even been beautiful, but it wouldn't have had that crush of power behind it. And so I have been trying to figure out, what it is that people are responding to when they see something impossible. I knew that it wasn't me. As much as I would have liked to think, it wasn't me, because I was just a 10-year-old boy, right? I didn't pursue a career in magic because I wanted to be in show business. I'm not even sure I like show business. I think I'm probably much better suited to being like a history professor here at Oxford. I would like that very much. I pursued a career in magic because I learned at a very young age that you can say something with a magic trick that is very, very hard to say any other way. And I wanted to figure out how to do that. There's this great quote by Einstein. Magicians love this quote. We probably abuse this quote. When I was a very young teenager, I was 13 or 14, I did a show that was not very good, and this quote was right there on the front of the program, and I can just imagine Einstein rolling over in his grave shouting, "That's not what I meant!" But it's an amazing quote, and Einstein said, "The most beautiful thing that we can experience is the mysterious. That is the source of all true art and all true science. And whoever cannot know that, whoever can no longer pause to wonder or stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead." My worry as a magician and as a performer is that as I get older, it becomes harder to feel that sense of genuine amazement. It's easy to be fooled by something. It's easy to be deceived by something. It's easy to be impressed by something. All of the experiences that sort of surround wonder are very easy to find. But that moment of absolute white light through the clouds, astonishment, is very rare. It's so much easier to sort of convince myself that I pretty much know how everything's going on. And I worry that blinds me to something that's important. And so magic for me has been a way to try as hard as I can to fight that, to stay awake, to not go to sleep, to remain open to experiences like wonder and astonishment. Because when you're a magician, it's your job to give those experiences to people, but you cannot do that unless you can also access them yourself. A magician operates from the absolute conviction that the more you learn about anything, the more amazing that thing becomes. It is the absolute renunciation of the axiom that familiarity breeds contempt. A truly great illusion gets more amazing the more you think about it, not less. And I think that's probably true of anything. I think the appropriate response to a studied scientific understanding of the universe is not disappointment, it's not disillusionment, it's amazement. You know, lightning, when you learn that lightning is not actually fire magic in the clouds, but is actually the cataclysmic release of a static charge that builds up in the atmosphere that strikes the earth 100 times every second of every minute of every hour of every day, forever and ever and ever, all around the world. That makes it way more amazing, right? Not less. And so, you know, I think that genuine wonder is never the product of ignorance. It's always the product of honesty, of knowing what you don't know and looking at it. And I think this is where, you know, I'm still trying to figure all this out, but I think right now that's sort of where I've come to with magic. That the power of something as simple as a coin trick doesn't come from the deception. It comes from its ability to take that experience of wonder and that experience of mystery and channel it forcefully and unexpectedly into the day-to-day experience of the audience.